everybody. I'm Brevin Thompson.
I'm Cameron Simpson.
I'm Ethan Hawkins.
And welcome back to my channel. And as promised, we're here to talk about the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, which I think is just a tad bit better than the theatrical cut, because I always appreciate getting to see a director's full creative vision for what he had for a film. And we gotten that recently a few years back when it came to Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. But way before that, we got that with Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2. As I'm pretty sure that some of you are aware, there was a lot of production issues when it came to shooting Superman 1 and 2, with Richard Donner doing that simultaneously. 75% of Superman 2 was already finished, and just because of the production running out of time and money, the Salkinds and Warner Brothers suggested that they stop filming Superman 2 and focus solely on finishing the first one, which they did. And when the first film was a success, they wanted to resume production on Superman 2. But there was a lot of tension and disagreements between Richard Donner and the Salkinds, who had the rights to the Superman franchise at the time, and it got so bad to the point where they were no longer apparently speaking with each other. So Donner was fired, and Richard Lester was to step in and finish the rest of Superman 2, and adding in additional reshoots, which I enjoy his version of Superman 2, but when it came to watching this and the Donner cuts, I will definitely say that the stuff that I enjoy in the theatrical cut were actually Richard Donner scenes. So there's been a big petition that has been going around for years with fans demanding to see what Richard Donner originally intended for the sequel after he was removed from the project. And thankfully in 2006, they compiled what they had for Donner's original vision for Superman 2 and then released it. And I didn't have a chance to watch the Donner cut of Superman 2 up until my teenage years, but I was aware of it because I saw a copy of it at Target at some point, but I was like, there's another version of Superman 2, and I never even noticed that. But since then, I've grown to favor the Donner cut more than the theatrical, because it gives us what Donner originally intended for Superman 2, and I can't help but appreciate that. So I know that you said that you had your ups and downs when it came to the Donner cuts. Yes. So what would your take be when it comes to the Donner cut compared to the theatrical cut that was done by Richard Lester?
Well, first, I just want to make my position clear here. I don't mean to criticize either version in general, especially in Richard Donner's case. I'm truly glad, first of all, that he actually managed to get his original vision on the game board. That is a very rare privilege, and one that I'm truly happy he got the chance to do. It's just, for me, it's... How do I put this? I grew up with the theatrical cut, first of all, so I have a lot more history with that.
So did I.
But at the same time, I guess, when I did a comparison between the two of them, they both had their ups and downs, and they all had their great moments. And I honestly was surprised to find out that the Richard Donner cut was even shorter than the theatrical. But at the same time, I just think that there were some scenes for the theatrical cut that they did better than the Donner cut, but I do like some of the alternate scenes we get in the Donner cut, so I think the best way to put it is, for me, you could say depends on the part of the movie, but arguably the best version of it is I guess you could say a version that was never created that combines both of them together in certain parts.
I guess that's one way to put it.
Yeah.
What's your take?
I like the overall tone and weight of this film, especially in Richard Donner's case. He really had his fingerprints on this film. You could feel it throughout the film, especially in the scene where Superman talks to his father in the fortress. You can really feel the impact of his decision. And you see the repercussions later on in the film, of course, and that really sticks with me personally. So I really like that aspect.
Yeah, so did I, because there are certain moments in the theatrical cut that you could tell were reshot by Lester, in which scenes were done by Donner. Obviously, the opening in Paris were reshoots by Lester, while in the Donner cut, how it opens like after the recap on the destruction of Krypton, Zod and his cronies getting sent to the Phantom Zone, and Superman like diverting like one of the missiles off into space, which was originally meant to set Zod and his cronies free from the Phantom Zone, while in Richard Lester's version, he takes a hydrogen bomb that was in an elevator off the Eiffel Tower and then throws it into space. And in Lester's version, that frees Zod and his cronies from the Phantom Zone.
Which I find to be an interesting difference. It does, of course, tie into the original, and I respect that. But at the same time, I guess it just, what it comes down to, I guess you could say, is a matter of perspective, because when you look at the theatrical cut, they say that really the only possible way to release Zod and his cronies from the Phantom Zone could be a nuclear explosion in space.
And of course, all the Gene Hackman scenes with him as Lex Luthor, Richard Donner also shot. Although I could see like certain moments that were like cut out just for like pacing issues in the theatrical cut, especially Otis being the idiot that he is. Especially in the scene where he and Luthor are escaping with the help of Miss Tessmacher, which still I do not understand why the hell she's still teaming up with Luthor again in the first place, but that's just another story. Gene Hackman's scenes were also like included in the theatrical cut. Well, there are certain shots in the theatrical cut where some of his scenes were done with a body double, and you can notice the double in certain moments in the theatrical cut.
Of course, some of the changes the Donner cut made was, of course, Superman's reveal to Lois, and I think it was a unique way, having Lois kind of force him to reveal his secret identity in a very, stressful and tumultuous moment. I think that was a nice touch. I mean, having her pointing a gun at him certainly raised the suspense level, and
Yeah.
I think forcing him to choose either to, keep denying his Kryptonian heritage,
so to speak.
and
Yeah.
kind of forced his hand. So I like that aspect. And also, of course, Lois is clever enough to use blanks, so
Yeah.
she kind of tricked him at the end. But I really think this really showed her intelligence level. And I think that difference.
Yeah, because I mean, we know that Lois is not an idiot, so
She might be a little stubborn and sometimes takes a while to put two and two together, but sometimes don't we all? I mean, isn't that just how cleverly disguised Superman is as Clark? I mean, the way he is, the differences in personality and persona between these two. It just really shows, I think, how well he's thought this out and how good of an actor Christopher Reeve is.
I think we could all agree that the most essential moments in the Donner cut were actually the added-in Marlon Brando scenes, because initially he wanted a significant amount of money for his likeness to be used in the sequel. They denied that, and since then, I mean, we just had like the reshoots that added in Superman's mom in the Lester version, but I'm glad that they given us a bit more of Marlon Brando in the Donner cut, because Jor-El was like the one that we were most invested in and we had like the strongest connection with, especially in a few essential scenes when Clark is talking to him in the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah, and while I agree that, of course, we have more history with Jor-El, and Marlon Brando, I mean, he's like one of the most iconic versions of him, if not the most iconic version of Jor-El that we've come to know. But I also, while I enjoy his performances, of course, I personally do like the fact that in the theatrical cut we get to see what Laura's like, because honestly, I know that we're more acquainted with Jor-El, but we never really get much chance, I think, to see his wife on the big screen or very much at all.
And of course, like, some of the essential moments with Zod and his cronies, like causing like a shit ton of destruction in that town, the White House, and of course the big battle in Metropolis with them and Superman. They get like extended like bits of dialogue, especially with Zod. There's like a little clever moment where Zod takes like an M16 when they were attacking the White House and just starts shooting a couple soldiers. But two of the most essential moments with Marlon Brando as Jor-El are right when Clark is talking to him, right when he's about to give away have his powers taken away in this molecule chamber that harnesses the rays of the red sun of Krypton, and then later on, when Clark goes back to the fortress to try to get his powers back, because in the theatrical cut, it's kind of left ambiguous once he picks up that green crystal, and it left us wondering for a long time, how the hell did he get his powers back? But I'm glad that the Donner cut resolved that, and it did it in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I very much enjoy the donor cut. Because, like I said, I'm not here to criticize. It's just, to me, the best version of it, like I said, is, of course, one that could combine the two. So, what I mean by that is, I think, say they left almost everything in the theatrical cut intact, and then just added that one scene with Jor-El there giving Superman back his powers and explaining how he got them back. I think that would arguably create the perfect version of this film.
Arguably so.
Yeah.
What would your take be on that scene?
I think that scene certainly was a spectacle, especially having Marlon Brando. You got to see all aspects of his acting in that scene, and I think seeing Jor-El's final departure in that film and was a proper send off with his character, and it really showed the growth of Superman. And as they say in the film, prophecy, the father becomes the son becomes the father. So that really comes full circle.
Yeah, that aspect I do appreciate, because he sacrificed what little energy that he has left so Clark can have his powers back.
Yeah, it definitely, I think, solved a major question on everyone's mind at the time. But honestly, either way, what mattered, I think, at the moment was that he was back, and now we're ready to go. But I am glad we got that form of closure. I really am.
Yeah. And the third act was also drastically changed because we got like a short battle in the Fortress of Solitude when it came to Superman and the three Kryptonians. But it's much more, there's much more dialogue in the Donner cuts, which I do appreciate in that version. And of course, we of course get like the great moment where he tricks Zod and his cronies to like having their powers taken away, and they all like fall into that chasm, seemingly to their deaths, and still perfectly executed. And the Donner cut, he destroys the Fortress of Solitude with his heat vision, and drops Lois off to her apartment, and they kind of like end their relationship in such a peaceful manner. And this part of the Donner cut, I'm kind of like back and forth on, because he reverses time again, even though they originally wanted to save the time travel thing with the sequel and not have it be the ending for the original Superman. So that aspect of the Donner cut, I have like a major nitpick with, because I felt like the time travel thing was better executed in a way in the original movie, but with the time travel thing being added into Superman to the Richard Donner version, so he reverses time, so that means that Lex Luthor never escaped from prison, the villains never escaped from the Phantom Zone, the Fortress of Solitude is not destroyed, and Lois never figures out that Clark is Superman. So in a way, it kind of makes this kind of redundant. And another aspect of that, adding in the time travel element that doesn't make it feel like it makes any sense, is when he goes back to the diner and beat up to get payback on the guy that beat him up when he had his powers taken away. So that aspect alone, I was just okay. I was like, okay, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, that arguably is the one part of the Richard Donner cut that I truly just don't like. Only because, like you said, to me, it really seems unnecessary. One, because it was unique, I think, in the first film, even if it wasn't originally planned for him to do that yet, where you kind of, it feels natural that he would do that. And of course, he does that, I think, again in order to undo all the damage Zod has caused since he arrived and send him back to the Phantom Zone. But at the same time, doing that and also destroying the Fortress of Solitude, I mean, to me, that doesn't even make any sense. I mean, why would he even want to do that? Even depowered, it's still the last piece of his Kryptonian home. Why would he want to destroy it? I mean...
Well, I mean, with him time traveling, I mean, it kind of like undoes that.
Well, it's implied that it does, but we never really see it again. And even if it does, to me, it just feels like this one part of the movie that really seems unnecessary, especially if it was undone with the time travel, because then that means he wouldn't need to do it at all.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand the point of that. But as for why he does that at the bar scene, I think it's because, you see, it's kind of like when he time travels again, everyone goes back to where they were before, but they have like a major case of deja vu. Like, they feel like they are on the verge of something big, or that they've been through something like this before, but they can't put their finger on it. But Superman, being the one that actually does it, is arguably one of the few that remembers, if not the only one.
Yeah.
So he goes back there for a little payback now that he's got his powers, and to kind of, just keep in touch with what happened in the theatrical cut. But at the same time, I guess that part of the movie to me just felt a little unnecessary.
Your take?
I think there's a couple angles to look at this. I hear what both of you are saying, and I think I agree for the most part. I think another take is they kind of wanted to leave it ambiguous. If you think about it, the threat of Luthor or any enemy coming to the fortress is significant. So maybe he didn't want to leave any trace to the fortress.
That part I can understand.
So I can see that with some aspect. Now, it did seem a little random at first viewing, because you're wondering, okay, because there was no dialogue, no explaining. He just kind of did it. But it kind of leaves a sort of hint of mysteries. That part I can understand. I think the diner scene now is, to me, that's a bit random. Because I know we get that scene early in the film, but it seemed, it just seemed a bit out of place, or it just kind of had a little baggage. I think, because Superman isn't really much for vengeance or, getting back.
Not really.
So that part was a bit hard to understand, but I think overall, that ending certainly was, especially with, Lois and the typewriter and, everyone at the Daily Bugle. I do like how the events unfold, and I think even though the time travel seems a bit controversial, because the natural aspect is certainly in question with that, but overall, I do think just seeing him flying in space to the end credits, that never gets old. I mean,
So I'll take what I can get from like both versions. So I like the Donner cut just a tad bit more than the theatrical, because I love seeing Donner's vision, even though it feels like incomplete, and even it says that it was technically incomplete because I like so much for his vision, but I'll take what I could get. So I'm gonna give it the same grade as the theatrical version, but it was just a blast to watch like both of these back to back, and I want to give a big thank you to Cameron and Ethan for collaborating with me on this. So, guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Looking forward to doing more videos really soon. And if you want my thoughts on old or new movies, of course, you know where to find me.